You can get the claps, just not the clap. Because the claps is when you do a good job.
Oh,
Clap
yeah.
could also be when you do a
You
good
always
job.
want claps. You don't always want stuff.
depends.
What you doing?
You can get the clap whether you do a good job or not.
Butterscotch. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 63 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, and I'm the web thrower.
I'm Sam, and I am the vertex twister.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And normally we
Good. I
have
like that one.
Carol here, but she is in a Carol coma
Caroma.
because she organized our trip to PAX and put this entire thing together. And it was basically like she got hit by a freight train made of 80,000 gamers.
Yeah.
And PAX Plague.
Yeah. So she's taking the day to relax and be dead mostly.
Tis a deserved rest.
Yeah. So we're gonna three person human the podcast. Also, this podcast might have profanity in it, probably a shitload. So
Or a fuck ton.
yeah. So
A
if you're
metric ass butt.
if you're a child, then you should have stopped listening a long time ago.
Heed the explicit tag on your podcast player thing.
So let's talk about PAX. What is PAX? Where is PAX? And why is PAX?
PAX is all over the place.
PAX it's
spreading.
been inside you the whole time.
PAX is the Penny Arcade Expo. It's a huge gaming convention that's put on. Now there's 4 of them. In fact, I believe there's one every quarter now.
Yeah, not at the same time.
Not at the same time. They're in different parts of the country. So the one we just went to was PAX West, which I believe used to be PAX Prime. Anyway, I don't know. So PAX West is out in Seattle.
They should really call it PAX Northwest, though, because it's about as northwest as you can go.
Before you're
And
in
what if they want to
Canada.
add another one because they keep on adding them anyway? What if they
that's
put one in
true.
California?
Then they'll change it to Northwest.
Well, maybe they will have one
and then
in
they'll
Canada
get sued by
soon.
Kanye.
Mm.
God, good point.
I
Like,
think
took my daughter's name.
Did they
PAX.
trademark the daughter's name, though?
Probably. It's Kanye. He's probably suing compass makers.
yeah. They do put a capital W on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Copyright infringement, man.
Ridiculous.
But PAX West is out in Seattle. So we got to go to Seattle for the first time, which is super cool.
It was
Literally.
cool. Yeah.
It was wet and gray.
Especially coming from St. Louis, which is, I think, 90-something degrees the day we left.
Pure sun piercing right into your eyeballs
Yeah,
all the time.
We arrive in Seattle, and it's just completely overcast. It looks pretty dreary, to be honest.
But
But
it felt great.
they do a great job. The city, apparently, is also referred to as the Emerald City, I learned, because
I think you're thinking about the Wizard of Oz.
that's
That's also
the Emerald City.
well, yeah, that takes place in
In
Seattle.
Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yellow Brick Road is the highway that gets you to Seattle.
Right.
Yeah, it's also known as Highway 39 to the locals.
But they do a really good job of keeping all this greenery up in the city. And of course, it's so wet there because it's raining constantly. Like I think it was pretty much just quietly raining the whole time we were
Yeah,
there.
all the
gentle drizzle.
plants are like, fuck yes.
Yeah. So it's
the
actually
best.
it was a very beautiful city. Even though it was overcast all the time. It didn't feel dreary, I guess, even though it was.
Yeah,
Is
but
that
we
the way
weren't
to
there for
put it?
that long, though. So I think
You
if
could-
you were there long enough, you might go into a deep, dark depression.
Yeah.
Or you just play a shitload of video games
Yeah, which I guess is
and be depressed, maybe. I don't
yeah.
know.
You can do that in sunny places too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So Seattle was very cool. We had a great place to stay. We got a little cottage via Airbnb, which was somehow cheaper than getting a hotel, and it was awesome. So that was a fun little
Mhm.
shindig. The biggest thing for us was getting all of our stuff there. So we were part of the PAX 10, which is a group of curated indie games that get sort of special placement on the floor of this show. And the PAX West show has about 60,000. Is that right? 60,000?
60, 70, 100.
There's a lot of
Who
people. I
knows?
guess that's the number.
There's also a lot of badge piracy.
badge piracy.
You know,
Oh, yeah, there's
people making fake badges.
Yep, and there's scalpers everywhere, and it's just chaos.
Yeah, so the actual number of unique visitors would probably be significantly higher.
You think
Nobody
so?
knows.
Yeah.
I didn't know that pirating the badges was so easy.
They had a big sign out, like a huge sign outside that said I think on day 2 or 3,
Mm.
they were like, there are many like cardboard laminated fake badges being produced. So, you know, whatever.
Be careful what you're buying on the
Careful what you buy on
street.
the street, which is a good rule of thumb.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we in the PAX 10, it was us plus 9 other indie devs who had been selected as this sort of I don't know, best of the best, pretty much.
Pretty much.
So we go there, we got this little table, and so all of us have tables are arranged in a
They
big
were like, "You
rectangle.
guys are the best. Here's a tiny table."
Here's a tiny table. But they did give us a TV, which is nice. So,
Well, they didn't give it to us. We just borrowed
yeah,
it.
well, yeah, we didn't get to
Temporarily.
take it home.
Wait, did we
Unfortunately.
take it home?
Yeah.
So we didn't have to cart that in, but we brought in a bunch of materials. You guys have probably heard us talking about Andy's arcade cabinet, which turned into a wedge last week.
It devolved into a more rudimentary form, but
Yeah.
it did the job.
Actually, I'm looking at the original one. It's got, I don't know, like what, 10 pieces or something?
It was very elaborate.
Yeah, the final
It's
version has
beautiful.
exactly one piece.
Yeah.
It's shaped like a fighter jet, though, when it's unfolded, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So we got there and got our stuff unpacked on Thursday night and got our booth all set up. By booth, I mean table. And so it was an interesting setup because we're arranged in this big rectangle. And I think so there's a lot of indie devs that, or I guess just game developers in general, who want to go to PAX and to go exhibit at PAX. And one thing we sort of had the question in the back of our mind is, what is this actually for, and what's this going to do for us?
Well, because it's easy to just be like, it's the biggest gaming convention in wherever.
There's going to be 70,000 players who'll get to see your game.
Right. But
Or to be
what
like,
does that mean?
we got into the PAX 10, which means that we're like good to go.
And everyone's going to want to talk to us and tell everybody else in the world about our game.
Yeah. So people like to think that sort of like just naming facts about the convention is a sufficient reason to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
But it actually doesn't really mean anything necessarily, which we
Yeah.
discovered.
So there's an interesting sort of trials and tribulations over the week or over the weekend as we ran into, I think, what either our expectations were or our hopes actually about what we would get from the event versus what we actually were getting, which I think I'd like to dive into it a little bit. So,
Let's go.
what do you guys think? What do you think is sort of some of the general expectations that an indie developer would have going into an event like PAX, where they either have a booth or a table in our case, but if you let a booth?
Yeah, I think there's one big expectation that people are going to have, which is definitely not the case, which is that being at a convention and getting sort of that exposure to players is somehow going to have a meaningful impact on the number of sales you have
Mhm.
or number of people who play your game.
Mhm.
That's definitely not the case.
Well, at least it's not sufficient to
Yeah.
cause that to happen.
Yeah. So we've started looking at the data of our sales numbers, during all this stuff. We're still parsing it and kind of waiting for anything meaningful.
Well, yeah, we want to give it a
happen,
few
but-
days too to kind of come to a rest that we can look back
Yeah.
and see what.
The expectation is that people probably haven't bought all the games that they wanted to buy from PAX just yet because it's a crazy 4-day thing, and then they got to go back to work this week, etc.
But
So
the
we're
longer
gonna,
they wait, the less likely they are to do it.
So we think we're going to do
And
an
people
analysis
will
at
have
the end of the week.
seen hundreds and hundreds of games at PAX,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
so
they can't
even
buy
if
them
they
all.
sat down and played yours for 20 minutes, it's not the only thing they did for 4 days.
Yep.
Right? There was a lot of other games. So the chance of them, first of all, seeing your game, there's 80,000 people there. There's several floors, lots of different expo halls.
A lot of people
Um,
spend most of their time waiting in lines.
Mhm.
Yep. And the expo hall areas are huge. And some people may not even get around to getting to your part of the building, So out of that 80,000, it automatically filters down to
Some much
smaller group that'll actually even walk past your game. And then depending on all kinds of other things, like were they with a friend who was excited about some other thing that was nearby, and when they walked past your game, really they weren't looking for games to play. They were just walking past it to get to something else,
Mhm.
right? It's also possible that maybe they wanted to play your game, but if they had a group with them, they didn't want to make the group wait. So maybe they trended toward playing games that fit playing with a group more.
Mhm.
Or all the spots were full. They were like, "Oh, I'll come back later,"
And they
then
forgot.
Forget.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the then all be all is that as it currently stands from looking at all of our stats, we have seen no increase besides what you would consider general noisiness
Mhm.
in our sales data to suggest that going to PAX increases your sales.
Yeah. And we
Sure.
were not selling Steam keys or anything like that on
While
the
we were
show
there.
floor,
Yeah.
which I think some people were doing or somehow got permission to do.
Probably not.
Yeah. But in
They
that
were just doing it.
case, of those people we talked to, it was definitely
was great.
It was definitely good for them.
But not good as in like it was worth.
No, it
going.
definitely didn't cover the cost of being
Right. It offset some of
It
the
offsets
cost
some
of
of it.
attending.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's not a good. It's a very expensive advertising strategy with with a negative return on investment, at least for the short term that you were in PAX and probably the week after, in terms of direct you talking to players and then them going out and buying your game as a console.
Yes.
Right. So our expectation is that when we look at the data after we wait a week or so, is that that's probably as much time as we need to give it to see if the people who saw our game, whatever else, would actually buy it.
Yeah.
If they wait longer than a week, whatever.
Now, some of our listeners might be thinking, well, yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to go to a expo hall for 4 days and actually sell hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies of your game, right? So why do we go then?
Yeah, so this brings us to the next point, which is sort of, I mean, it's basically the same thing, but on two different fronts. So it actually all comes down to meeting people, and not just fan people, because obviously we're there to see our fans,
but also crab people.
Yep.
Mainly crab people, because if you boil them,
Delicious.
Shaped like crab, talk like people.
Feed a family of 4 for 3 days.
Yeah.
So besides the crab people, though,
they're actually 3. Sorry.
The main reason for going is actually to interact with both our platform holders. So that's anything from Google Play or iTunes or Steam to Twitch or YouTube. So anybody who has a platform that we can utilize in some regard, and then also to go and chat with other devs who we either really respect either the games they make or the way that they conduct their business, or just who seem like they have some things figured out that we haven't figured out yet. And this was an interesting one, I think, for us, because we were hoping that there would be some sort of sales boost, of course. I think I was personally surprised that there's no detectable.
I wasn't.
Yeah, I like to brag that I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that there'd be like a little bit.
I think my guess is when we go do a really careful analysis of the thing, we're going to see it's going to be we won't be able to differentiate it from noise, I think, because there's enough weekly variability that like a change of 5 or 10% or whatever is you can't cast it to be blamed on any specific thing. But I think it's highly likely that probably we're gonna end up with is being like, it's gonna be probably a plus 10% or something like that for those 4 days. Like we're gonna get a little bit of a boost in the positive direction. It's just that because it'll be so small relatively,
it'll be indiscernible.
Well, we won't be able to actually
I think
tell
if you really ponder the funnel, you got like 80,000 people. Let's say hypothetically 20,000 of them actually came to our floor.
Sure.
Over the weekend. We know that probably something like 300-ish people played our demo, right?
Yeah.
But of those, most of them, after they played, who bothered to asked us when the game is coming out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which means there's an implication there that a lot of the games on the show floor aren't even available for sale. Right. And so
why would they go look for it?
So there had to be people who not only walked past our booth, but had enough interest in the game to either play it or remember to buy it or whatever. And then also to think that, hey, maybe this game is actually available right now. I'm going to go look for it, as opposed to thinking that it's,
This suggests that we should have put up a available now sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, but there is another,
certainly does.
but there is another important point with this, which is that the reason that these kinds of things are so hard to measure in terms of their impact is for this very kind of reason, right? If people didn't even realize that the game was available, then they're not going to even go look for it. But if, say in December, we launched the creator patch, if we pull that off, and all of a sudden it's all over the news sources, the kind of people who go to PAX are the kind of people who read news sources, right? And now they're going to see this game for the second time, which means they'll be a little more likely to buy it maybe.
Right. Are you advocating for the mere exposure effect?
No, I would never advocate for it because we can't measure
I mean, that it might be a thing.
No, I believe the mere exposure effect exists. So the reason Seth is asking this is because I'm always harassing him about how I don't believe that the media matters.
Yeah.
Drop that fucking
right
bomb right there. But no, seriously though, it's not even.
You don't believe that it can convince people of.
Well, it's not even that. It's that the question of why people buy our games or any games, right? And why some games are more successful than other, and whether this can be, how much of this can just be purely attributed to the fact that it's on the front page and that's how most people discover games, like the front page of their store, versus having lots of exposure in all kinds of media outlets. Because what I maintain is that most people who buy games don't actually read media about games, which may or may not be true.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. Probably research on that somewhere.
There probably is, but it's a very hard thing to measure. And as we know, most research is totally full of shit.
And this is, of course, we've had this conversation before, but it's interesting. So, so this is also assuming that the people who read stuff don't talk about the stuff they read.
Right.
To their other friends who don't read things but are interested in games.
Right. In which, of course, they probably do. But what this all comes down to is there's this big question of how many game sales can be purely attributed to just somebody comes onto the store, it's on the front page, and they buy it. And then maybe at that point, because there's a huge amount of exposure there, start telling their friends about it and telling other people.
Just reminds me, I bought a game last night. It was on the front page.
Yeah.
What'd you buy?
It's called Red Out.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's a racing
Yeah. It's
game,
really fun.
kind of like F-Zero, I guess. And it's VR capable. I don't have a VR headset.
You can
but
throw up while you're driving.
it is a fast game, but it's crazy because the race that I was doing, it was like I just was doing the first race. I was trying to win the first race, and I played it I think like 9 times or something, and every single time I would be in like 5th or 6th place out of 6. And the first place person would be like 0.5 seconds ahead of me out of a 2-minute race. Right. So it's like
everyone's just like packed together. Super tight.
And the problem is there's a collision between the vehicles.
Oh.
And sometimes when you collide, your vehicle literally just flips backwards. And so like sometimes I'd get in first and I'm like, yeah. Then all of a sudden somebody just like doink and they just like poke me from behind. And then all of a sudden I'm backwards and now I am in 6th again.
Whoa.
Right? So super fun game, but I got to work on it. But anyways, I bought it because I opened up Steam last night and I was like, I'll play some games. I haven't played games in a while. Look through.
I always go to the store page first.
Yep.
Every time I open up Steam, and if there's something that's on the front page that sounds intriguing or that I've heard about and believe it will be intriguing, then I go look into it and decide I'm going to buy it.
Well, and I mean, we've seen this effect ourselves, where when we have a storefront feature on a game launch, the difference in sales from while that's on the front page to when it's not on the front page is something
enormous.
on the order of 20x, if not 50x, depending on like if you're 2 weeks out from launch versus 1 week out from launch. So yeah.
So then the main
that is the thing.
And then the main argument that this brings up is that if you look at other games that launched when Crashland did, some of them did literally 10 to 20 times better on their launch, even within a week of when we did, getting the same kind of feature treatment and that sort of thing. So the question that's left is,
what's the difference?
What's the difference? Is it because just differences in the games themselves or like the game pages or whatever were sufficient just to mean that the same number of people saw it, but more people bought it, which is possible? Or is it that those other games had a lot more hype and a lot more interest in stuff that was external to the stores that drove people to buy it?
Well, there's also the idea of the tipping point, which is there's a lot of social proof that comes in. If you look at a game that even if it's a $60 game, if it has 20,000 reviews on Steam, you're like, wow,
this must be good.
This is popular.
Well, actually,
right? Like, there must be something going on with this.
Is it RimWorld? That one that just came out. I had not heard about it at all, ever.
I keep hearing it mentioned all over the place.
And then suddenly in a 1 week window, because I happened to be, there's also while I was doing a bunch of prep stuff for PAX, so I happened to be on a lot of the sites doing research and stuff. And I just kept on reading about it just over and over and over again. I was like, what the fuck is this? So I went to Steam and it was on the front page of Steam. And I was like, okay. So and it's early access.
Which may be why people are talking about it. Or maybe it's the other way. Who knows?
Because an early access game on the front page of Steam, this is a weird inverse because
it's a big deal.
That's a way higher standard bearer of quality than a lot of things because early access games do not get much coverage at all on Steam when they launch.
In terms of features.
Yeah. And so the fact that it meant that this thing was sticking for people for some reason. So I bought it. It's like $20. I was like, wow, this thing must be amazing. And people in the reviews were telling these hilarious stories about the stuff. And it's cool, but I don't actually like the game at all. But I did buy it, right? I did buy it. I was I don't feel hoodwinked at all because clearly everybody else is enjoying the shit. It's just not my sort of thing. I just wanted to see what the deal was.
Just not the kind of game you're
So
into.
you didn't pull that move where you bought the game and you're like, no, maybe this game isn't for me, and then demand a refund. You didn't pull that move.
I think I played it.
Good man.
I played it for 3 or 4 hours because it's a big sort of systems oriented game. So I can't even refund it. But the whole point here is that a lot of devs actually think that going to things like PAX or even like GDC or anything like that stuff is the purpose is more player oriented. When it's our sort of opinion now that we've done one that what you should still focus on at these events is while you maintain a really good presence for your players, of course, and your fans to come in, see you, chat a little bit. The purpose for you is a studio that actually lets you offset the huge costs of going because the costs are enormous. All of us are like sick now from going there.
Yeah, we lost at least a week of dev time.
2 travel days and 4 convention days.
Yeah, and Carol was prepping for the whole thing for 3 weeks. I was on it a ton. Andy was on it a bit. It's like there's tons.
We brought 43 pounds of swag to give away.
Yeah. We gave away 15 pounds of buttons and pins.
Yeah.
Which is insane. The volume is huge.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that actually from a player to dev interaction standpoint, it's one of the lowest leverage activities you can do, honestly.
Yeah.
But from a meeting with either media or platform holders thing, it's huge because it's one of the few times where you actually get everybody in the room at the same time. And this is the reason why GDC is such a good thing for game developers to go to. You don't even have to go to the talks. Like if you're just interested in going to GDC, just get an expo pass so you can get in the building, basically, and then chat with people.
Or even if that's outside your budget, just try to get a cheap hotel within like 5 blocks.
And then hang out at the park.
Just hang out near the convention.
Because the actual
tweet at people.
Yeah, the actual value is in the network potential there. And so
and we met a lot of people off site too when
Yeah.
we were at GDC.
at GDC. And so what we did, so Friday we had the orientation, I think a little bit going in that certain things would be handled for us, which ended up not being the case. So part of it was assuming that because we're in the PAX 10 that we would get some extra media exposure and that sort of things. There's actually a media hour that happens the first day of PAX, the only day of PAX where the media get an extra hour to come in from 9 to 10 before the show floor opens. We assumed they'd be running around like animals trying to get all this stuff done.
Get their scoops.
Nobody even came up to the 6th floor that we know of.
It's not an exaggeration.
Nobody at all. And there's
Literally
hundreds of
zero
media
people.
So that was we basically had a few of these sort of things, which I personally viewed more so as these sort of setbacks.
Do you want to say why nobody came up? Because
So it turns out
it's
because
amazing.
the Behemoth, who are awesome,
We're fucking brilliant.
the Behemoth every year apparently have a press breakfast at their booth on the 4th floor.
They're just
On
giving
the
away.
and there's only one press morning.
Yeah.
As in the press have an extra hour before everybody else comes in to go look at all the games.
And the
stuff.
Behemoth's like, hey, you guys want all these sandwiches and pastries and
And the
coffee?
press are like, yes. So the press just go show up at the Behemoth booth.
It's like a press mixer.
Yeah, it
Like
ends up being a press
they're
mixer
all there getting their
hosted by the
delicious
Behemoth.
free breakfast. Yeah, and then the Behemoth is just like hanging out like, hey guys, what's going on?
Yeah, so if we would have known about this, I would have just gone down to the 4th floor and hung out with all the press.
poached
at the
them.
Behemoth. Yeah, poached them.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not even mad.
No,
It's
it's
awesome.
brilliant.
Like,
Such a good
it's
idea.
brilliant. Yeah.
But I think this brings us to the other thing, which is that so after this day of Friday of sort of not getting to chat with people like we thought we'd be able to.
Well, the other part is that there are like, there are hundreds of developers there showing off their games, maybe thousands even. I don't know,
Probably
thousands.
A lot.
And so even if there were thousands of press, most of them want to see the exact same things, which are the biggest, splashiest, most amazing games, not the little indie games.
Well, and not only that, but something that it's kind of a weird sort of like self-fulfilling cycle, right? But like things that already have a lot of hype,
more hype.
Yeah, like the press want to go get a scoop on that, and if it's something that's not out yet or whatever, that's even more exciting because maybe they can get some kind of an exclusive scoop on it. In our position, game's been out since January. We got like a couple things coming up, but people are going to get it no matter what, and most people have played the game who are going to play it. So the press is like, no problem,
Old hat,
Yeah.
right? So, on Saturday though, we took a much more aggressive strategy. So what we did was actually had 2 people running the booth, and then Adam and I went down and ran around on the 4th floor, which is where there's just a ton of activity, with the explicit goal to talk to a huge list of the developers that we found on the map. So Supergiant was there, which is people who make Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre's their new game. Behemoth was down there, who we've looked up to for a long time, just as far as how they operate. And we ended up having really phenomenal chats with both of those crews, which was really fun. Learning a lot of stuff from them just about how they view these things and how they do stuff. And they were so available as far as giving us their time.
Yeah,
They're
really good
just
people.
as excellent of people as you would assume after having played their games.
right.
Yeah. And so we actually ended up spending, I think, about like 25 minutes chatting with the owner of Behemoth.
Yeah, one of their co-founders.
Yeah, he just took us. We walked outside the expo floor and just chatted in the quiet, which was fantastic to get that. That guy's been around for a while. Their studio's been open since 2003 or something, and they're successful. It's like being able to just ask blunt questions like, "Why do you go to PAX?
Yeah,
What's the purpose of this?" Was super fun and super useful.
Their answer was also really interesting.
yeah, which you said we come here for playtesting, right? I mean,
We just get a shitload of computers and put them out,
which is great.
like way more than we think we even need. And we just put games out that we're still working on and get people to play test them.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing because we've been having, like we said on Friday, finding out that maybe this isn't as useful from a player facing context as we thought. Being able to go talk to people who've been around for a while, been doing it, and have them give us some more evidence to support that is nice because it makes it so we don't have to strike out in the dark for so long before we figure out what we're doing. So we talked to Behemoth and Supergiant, and then walked the floor and talked to a bunch of new indies and stuff too that were at the other booths,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of had a good time. I mean, really, it's like schmoozing, right?
Well, yeah, schmoozing everywhere.
Schmoozing on it.
And of course, a lot of the other devs, like, it feels so bad for them because, I mean, I guess we were in the same position, really, but like, they're just standing here for 4 days,
Yep.
watching and just an endless stream of people come and ask the same like 8 questions and play the same demo.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly just walk right by
Mostly just walk, yeah, and they're just like they just standing there.
Yeah.
And so
for 9 hours a day.
yeah, it's like as another
4
dev to
days.
come over and just be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like, because you're in the trenches with them,
Mhm.
you know, like you are both going through this hellacious scenario together, where you all have to stand and you're like taking prophylactic ibuprofen all day and you're exhausted. And so just having that camaraderie of just like jumping into their booth and just chatting with them while they're just like,
It's almost like a break. It's like a break for them.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, we went and chatted with a bunch of the indies downstairs and had that same feeling where we're waiting in line. They're like, oh yeah, we're up in the PAX 10 upstairs. And then you just kind of talk shop for 3 or 4 minutes.
Mhm.
And it's this nice sort of almost like a break because they're not selling anything at that point.
Yep.
And we chatted with the guy who made Stardew Valley was there. He's a couple booths down from us. And he seemed super appreciative that someone came by to like
just to talk to him as a
just
human.
talk shop as a human. Even though he's a demigod. Yeah. So that was a nice thing that we were able to do. And then just every single night afterwards, we'd go get burritos with people. That was like our shtick.
We had a lot of
We rounded
burritos.
up one night. We rounded up like 20 indie devs.
The whole
and
duelist
just,
team.
It just invaded Qdoba.
Yeah. That was incredible.
Yeah,
So
the duelist crew. They were a bunch of good folks.
yeah. So I think the interesting thing, I guess, for us is we wanted to treat it like a big learning experience, and we did. But it's also just very surreal being at an event like that, right? Because I've heard about it a lot, and then there we are, and then we're talking to the, super giant guys or Behemoth or any of these people who have been like who are sort of industry
Or
players,
that you look up to, or that have been making games that you just like really that you can
All
really
about.
appreciate. Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's weird.
It's a little weird.
Weird to be right in the middle of all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then we also got a chance to chat with the Rack 7.
Oh my god,
crew.
these guys,
So it's a couple of guys from Canada, from Vancouver.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both super tall, and they both just always have this kind of like shit-eating grin.
They're kind of smirky.
Yeah, like they're
Smirking.
just kind of internally chuckling about pretty much everything.
Yep.
And they're working on a game called Splitter Critters, which was and like I don't mean any offense to the other PAX 10 games because they're all good games, but man, their game was fucking great.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, it's very. It reminds me of the same sort of mind twistiness that happened when Portal came out, where the mechanic is weird enough that you have to learn how to think in a completely different mode in order to
Yeah,
solve.
it's not a
Yeah.
puzzle you've ever had to solve before.
Well, this is kind of it's a tricky area for them to navigate because I think I shouldn't say their game is great because it's still under development,
Mhm.
right? And it's going through all kinds of iterations.
Mhm.
But
It'll be highly dependent on the puzzles.
yes, the
themselves.
mechanic that they've come up with is something that I don't think anybody will have ever seen before, and it's even the case that like I went over there and I was like, okay, so how does this happen? Like I've been making games now for 5 years and I've made hundreds of prototypes and I'm looking at the mechanic they have in their game
Can't figure it
and
out.
I'm just like, what fucking witchcraft is happening here? And it literally involves slicing the world and then dragging pieces of the world around to refit them together.
Yeah, but it's almost more like slicing the view, right?
No, but what they're literally doing is slicing
I
the
know
world
that's
in the
right, yeah.
code.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, like they're cutting the mesh that makes up the world and then allowing you to like and you can then do multiple slices but yeah, so that's why I say though that
It's trippy.
that their mechanic is really interesting. And I think it has the potential to make for a really awesome game and I think they're on track for that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's such a weird concept to wrap your mind around as a player that it could very easily tip into the realm of being overwhelming or confusing to people. And so that execution is going to be very difficult to hit, but I think they can do it.
Well, they said they retooled they're using it for testing purposes, being the PAX 10 too.
Yep.
And they already retooled a bunch of the demo like the first night because they had a huge difficulty spike on the third level that they didn't understand because they made the game, so they completely understand how the mechanics work.
Yep.
And then people were just getting stuck and getting frustrated and dying. So they were hilarious to talk to. And they also have another game,
Mhm.
which we can't actually, they told us not to tell anybody about it, but it's on their Twitter page. So we can at least,
we can
it's
say
public.
the name of it.
Sneaky Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And oh my God.
Yeah.
We saw it while we were eating burritos together, and I think I haven't chuckled.
I shot avocado out of every hole in my head.
It is one of
from
the
laughing.
funniest things I have ever seen. So I'm super excited for that to come out. I'm assuming they'll start posting about it after Splitter
Yeah,
Critters.
so it's
Yeah,
RAC7.
We didn't really
if you wanna
sign an
check 'em out.
NDA or anything, but out of respect, we cannot
quiet
disclose information other than that this game had better exist soon.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
You guys have any other big takeaways from PAX or any other?
No, I mean
Thoughts?
it was super interesting. I'm really glad we went. Definitely learned a lot.
Here's a
with-
question:
with the
would
new
we go
strategies.
again?
Yes,
But probably
with some tweaks to our
Plan?
our plan.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, and I think it also depends on what we have to show, right? Because I think one of the important lessons is that one of the most valuable things there, as we said, was going and seeing other developers or meeting with our various business contacts and that sort of thing. And in the other part, the showing of the booth is hugely taxing and exhausting.
Mhm.
The rest was actually very fun and very productive and useful, but showing the booth is just exhausting.
Mhm.
And so it may be the case if we don't have a new game or we don't have something that's ready to be play tested, or we're like a ways out from, if we're kind of in a spot where there just isn't something really new to show,
Just have a couple of us fly out there and
yeah, we might
chat
just attend.
not exhibit.
Right.
but
Yeah. Alternatively, we may set up a big booth that's like all about all of our Butterscotch games where, who knows? We'll have to decide what the motive is going to be. But
But I will say there was one thing
Hmm.
that blew my fucking mind. Is that there was this one guy there who had a prototype game on his back.
Oh yeah,
And he
that
was
awesome.
He was an attendee, but he was also a game developer, and he had a giant Asus touch screen that he had built some kind of contraption and
It's like a backpack.
Yeah, it was like a backpack that he had just like strapped himself into, so that everywhere he walked around, he just had his game running on his back. And since a lot of PAX involves standing in line waiting for things to happen, then he's like, I'm just giving the person behind me a chance to play test my game. Right?
Brilliant.
And it's also
clever.
because it was on his back, then people didn't have to feel like, because like there was apparently at one PAX there was somebody who was cosplaying an arcade cabinet.
Oh yeah,
and-
he had his game up there, didn't he?
yeah, and they had their game in the arcade cabinet, but it was facing forward.
Mhm.
And so while you're playing this game, there's also this person just
a
looking
social
at it,
pressure.
staring right into your eyes. So, but they asked him to shut it down because he didn't pay to be an exhibitor.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, he still wore it, but he had to turn it off. So it was a bummer.
That's a bit of a bummer.
But yeah, but then that makes me wonder: can an exhibiter do that? Like,
yeah.
As
if
you're
you paid
wandering
for
around?
booth space,
Actually,
can you
this
wear
is
a
a good
backpack
question.
that's made of your game?
Huh. I
don't
bet
know.
that falls in one of those gray areas that it depends
Yeah.
on who you talk to while you're there.
That means you should just do it. And
Just
then
do
ask
it.
for forgiveness
Yep.
later.
Or don't ask for forgiveness.
Just do whatever you want.
Just have no remorse.
All right, so let's get to the questions. We're gonna do just a few. It's gonna be a quicker podcast this week because we're all taxed.
And diseased, we're PAXed and poxed.
Our goose got cooked.
So questions come from podcast.bscotch.net. You can sling them in there with your Bscotch ID to get a cool perk, which is an avatar of some coffee
With a butterscotch.
with butterscotch flying into it. Also, Andy tested it out. He had coffee with butterscotch in it. Apparently, it's delicious.
Yeah, I got a buddy up in Canada, a gaming buddy, who orders butterscotch coffee from Tim Hortons every day. He's like, it's the best shit in the universe.
Ooh, hey,
So-
well, we also I forgot to mention we had our fan meetup on Thursday night before PAX started.
oh yeah,
It
was awesome.
It was super cool. We went into the Starbucks roastery, which is probably one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever been in.
yeah. I
That's
just wanted
very
to
cool.
live there,
If anybody can go there, go there. It's in Seattle, and
and it's like 2 blocks from the convention center. Or
yeah,
something.
it's all like wood and copper, so it just has this like warm.
rustic. Is that
Rustic
the word?
vibe.
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what that word
Sure.
means really. But
And they made some delicious coffee, and then there happened to be this huge mahogany long table that was just sitting there unused in kind of a back room, and I think everybody must have thought that it was like a reserved for
I
someone
mean, we thought we couldn't use it, but we asked
Yeah, it
anyway.
kind of looks separate. And so we just asked the barista if we could use it. He's like, yeah, you can sit there, you can sit there, you can sit there. So we claimed this back.
that
So we
is
had a
what he
whole
said,
table.
actually. I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we had this whole table with a glass staircase and balcony over it for some reason. And we ended up having, I don't know, 10 or so people come by.
Yeah. I
Hang
like,
out.
for some
Including
reason,
Alan MB, medical doctor,
Oh yes, the medical box.
who was wearing a Butterscotch shirt.
yeah. For some reason, I got a kick out of like taking pictures of us in empty spaces and then sending out tweets. That
Yeah.
like, look at all the people here. Yeah, because like when we were first prepping for that, then we had a picture of us just sitting at the mahogany table, this giant mahogany table, just completely
Empty.
by ourselves, and we're like fan meetup, you know.
Then we had a panel.
Yeah, then Sam was on a panel, PAX 10 panel, and I took a picture of the room before the panel
They
started.
hadn't even opened the doors yet.
They didn't open the doors yet. There was nobody in there, and it was just like Sam on the sitting up at the front and one other person. And I was just like, PAX 10 panel, packed house.
It's funny, man. I don't know if you saw the responses. We got some like sympathetic, like at least you guys got it's cool. You got to be on a panel, you know, it's fine.
I was like, I know it's a joke. Yeah, so then Carol felt bad because she was like, oh, some people aren't getting that this is actually a joke. So then she,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
took,
sound like
she
a
took
joke.
another picture once they opened the doors and there were actually people in there.
This is the problem with inside jokes that only you understand.
Mhm. All right. So first question from podcast@bscotch.net comes from Map5597, who asks, how do you guys feel about demo versions for games? I want to talk about this just because we did a big demo at PAX. Personally, I think it's a good idea. Before I got Kerbal Space Program in Minecraft, I played the free demo version to see if it was something I would like. Will the next paid game have a demo?
I think it depends.
Let's talk about demos.
Yeah, I think for a sandbox game, I think a demo is probably not bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know if it's
Which would include both of those games you mentioned.
I don't know if it's good, but I would say it's probably not necessarily bad.
Okay.
I think for a lot of games that are more linear or story driven or whatever, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Because in a sandbox game, you know, a demo gives you the opportunity to kind of like explore some of the mechanics.
Mhm.
And as long as you get a sense of the scope of like all the zany things that you're going to get to do, because that's what a sandbox is, like a toy, right? You get to play with it in all these cool ways. But the feeling I always get when I play a demo for something that's more of a single player game, like an RPG or like a first person shooter that's like a single player campaign or whatever, and they start to play it, and then I'm kind of like, like I kind of see where this is going, you know, or I feel like I've kind of played something pretty dang similar to this before.
Sure.
And it may be the case that there's going to be some like nuanced, interesting game systems that come further down the road, but you don't get to see those in the first like 30 minutes of gameplay. So I don't know.
What's an interesting problem we had at PAX in particular, collapsing the Crashlands game systems into about like a
5 to 10 minute
demo experience. Because it really runs people. It's kind of like a gauntlet. I mean, people are learning how we handle tool usage, which is completely different than most games, in that it just sucks into your body and then it comes out whenever you need it.
that you don't need to manually pick anything up.
Yeah,
It's
but
all
you do need
automatic.
to manually retrieve your crafted items from stations, which is a totally new thing.
Yep.
They have cook times. The eggs take a while to hatch, and you got to come back to them. All these things that people are not necessarily familiar with, and so you kind of you're just like slamming someone in the face with it. And the truth is that learning a game system can be very frustrating, actually. And we did have a few people who thought that something should work a particular way, and then wouldn't sort of change how they were thinking about it, given the feedback they were getting. And so after a few stagnating moments, would just like get up and leave.
Yeah, the interesting ones are when somebody would target something and then press every button on the controller except for the button that did a thing, and then they would just leave. They'd be like, I guess, like, I don't know, and then that's it. Yeah, because it's also the case that if you buy a game,
You're committed.
you're gonna try that last button, right? Because you're like, I want to figure this out. I've sat down for a play session or whatever. When you're at a convention floor playing a game that you don't have an active save in, you haven't paid for, you have no investment in it, and also
there's
you're
1,000 other games around.
there's thousands of games around, and all your friends are like, come on, let's go, right? You need any reason whatsoever to be like, nah.
It's almost like the free to play context.
It is actually. I was thinking a lot about that. That demoing a game on a show floor is very much like a free to play relationship between you and your players.
Interesting.
And there are ads everywhere. So
Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
it's just exactly
demoing a game on a show floor is like releasing a free to play game.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wonder if maybe in the distant future, once Crashlands has kind of pulled all of the weight we could think it could possibly pull, if we actually released a free demo just on Steam, just temporarily,
To see what happened.
as an experiment, basically A/B testing, right? We just release it for a while, see what it does.
It's a good idea.
Could be really interesting. We'd probably have to talk to Steam and see if they'd be down, because we'd have to basically put something up and then take it back.
I will say though that I think having a demo is really it's a tricky situation to navigate depending on where you're distributing. So on Steam, you can actually do a demo, and it literally says demo.
Yeah.
Right. Which players go into that with an expectation of this is a tiny slice of the game and I'm just trying it, right? If you are on mobile, there is no concept of a demo. Like the storefronts do not support that idea. And so you either have a game that you just get or a game that you pay for. And so we've done stuff like in Flop Rocket, you could pretty much consider what you get in Flop Rocket a demo with a $3 full game purchase, right? Because a demo is really just like it's a small slice of an existing game. And because we don't have a reliable way to frame it as a demo on like right on the storefront, on the store page of the game, there's no button that says like get demo or anything like that, right? Then people just go into it with the expectation that they're just getting the whole thing for free. And we actually get review bombed when we do that, right? So
people are like, I played this for a couple hours and then now I have to pay for some
goddamn
stuff.
Paywall.
Yeah, and I think it stands to reason that, you know, both of the games listed in the question, which are Kerbal Space Program and Minecraft, they have the ability to frame things in that way, right? Minecraft, they distribute through their own website. So they can say like, download the demo, which when you click that, you get the demo, right?
Right.
And Kerbal Space Program is through Steam and they can do the same thing. So I think it definitely can work and I've seen it work, but it's a tricky water to navigate.
It's much more nuanced than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah.
They're
It's not
usually
just
like,
they're good or they're bad, but of course everything is nuanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. People seem to not be aware of this fact.
Speaking of which, we wrote an article in Games Industry that went up last week. If anyone wants to read about
It was nuanced as fuck.
Yeah. I yeah. I feel like that sentence describes our intellectual approach pretty well. Things are nuanced as fuck.
Yeah. 100% nuanced all the way.
I wish we could title this podcast episode Nuanced as Fuck.
We probably can. We can do whatever we want.
That's true. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah. But I mean, seriously, it's very black and white. Literally everything we do is 100% nuanced.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
let's hit the next question. I think we only have time for one more question.
okay.
So let's do it.
I'm gonna pull another one up here.
Choose your favorite one from this list.
Whip out that new fancy gold phone. Sam got a Galaxy.
It's actually just a
S7.
gold brick.
I think Kevin 888 kind of cheated here because he asked how was PAX.
Yeah, we answered his
He
question.
had to know we would talk about it. I'll
How
mark-
was
I'll
he
mark
even
his
asked
answer
how
anyway.
was/is PAX just to be safe.
just to keep it clever, Kevin. We see what you did.
Old
there.
Vern asks an interesting question about the creator. He asks, Adam, do you think you could add a choice system to the creator, or would that require too much work? By choice, I'm assuming a dialogue response.
Here's my quick answer. Adding a dialogue response would be very tricky given what currently exists to both do that in the game and in the creator. It would just require doing a bunch of something. I think it would probably be easier on the creator than in the game, but Seth would have to speak to that. But in any
Yeah.
event, significantly.
I mean, it would require an entire new.
It's a new system.
It would require an entire new UI mechanism to be able to respond to
Yeah.
things.
On top of a new system. But
On top of everything else.
But I will say though that one of the fun things about constraints, in this case, not having a choice system via the dialogue, is that people will come up with really clever mechanisms, given what they do have, to still get that thing right. Because the whole idea here of the choice as a function of story, because you're thinking probably of like Fallout or these other games that have some story element where you go talk to somebody, you get some dialogue options and choose one, and things unfold from there. So we don't have that, but because we have this modular questing system where things can be dependent on stuff like location and that sort of thing, then what you could actually do is basically, depending on where an NPC is and goes and where you are and go, only certain things will actually end up being available to you. So you can actually create a branching quest line where
there's actually an even easier way to do it.
What's that?
Which is you can have, so there's two types of quest prerequisites. So the idea of a quest prerequisite is a quest needs to have been done in order to get the next one, right?
It's a quest chain.
It's a quest chain. But we actually have a second type of quest prerequisite, which is that another quest is not completed, but is active.
Correct.
Right. So all it would take is for us to add a third option, because that also includes says active or completed. Right. So it take us, all we have to do is add a third option that would say this quest must be currently active, because that would mean you could talk to somebody. They could be like, hey, if you want to do this, talk to me again. Otherwise, go talk to Jerry over there. Right.
Ooh. That way, so once you talk to Jerry, quest is no longer active, shuts the other branch
Exactly.
down.
Yep.
Because then it ends up being complete.
Right.
Yep.
In that
and it's
In
no
either
longer
case?
it's no longer active, and you've made your choice.
That doesn't
and-
sound cool. Anyway.
Yeah.
But what we're getting at here is there are some potentially logically confusing,
Yep.
but definitely ways that you'll be able to use the tools that we have to provide choice as a.
Now,
as a
I will say though, because it's definitely the case that we have some people reading a lot more into what the creator is than what is really there, which is, we've had some people on the Crashlands subreddit saying things like, "Oh, I'm so excited to make a tower defense game with this." Like if you want to make an entirely different genre of game that's not an action RPG, basically, you're gonna have a bad time because.
Right.
Because what is available to you in the creator is all the mechanisms that we use to piece together the campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
So quests, characters, putting together outposts, having the world change in response to quests, boss fights, and then with a handful of mutators that will allow you to kind of overlay some interesting sort of global effects like persistent nighttime,
Maybe permadeath.
turning off build mode so that you cannot, like lay down bases and stuff, or even like turning off resources spawning in the world, which would mean you'd be responsible for placing everything if you wanted to just have a totally blank slate to work with. So it's basically like you have these modifiers, but it's not going to be like say
Again,
yeah,
creativity though, right? Because I could make a tower defense game in the creator
Can you?
by staging it so that all of a sudden a whole bunch of creatures appear on the screen at once, right? So because people think of it as waves of things coming in from the outside, which is not possible.
Or if you could play Smash Blossoms.
oh yeah. Well, they only hurt you.
They only hurt you.
Oh yeah.
but
Jolly
you can
jumps.
basically you can just have it so that if you kill X number of wompits, so say like 3 appear, right? You kill them, you've now completed the quest, you trigger a stage change, trigger a scene change. Now a bigger group appears right where you are,
You
right?
don't have any towers though. Where's your towers? This is just
No,
a
I mean,
defense.
but then we can add something like
Yeah, but see, the thing is,
Like
yeah,
a
it would be
turret, right?
it'd be
And
easy
they
for
would
us
still
to
work
add a few items to the game that would just like persistently damage enemies or something like
Right.
that. And so that's the kind of stuff that we would like to do when we launch a creator patch, is also throw some extra items in there
Let
that
creativity
you
go
normally
wild.
wouldn't even have in the normal game.
Yeah.
But that you'd be able to place out there in the world using the creator. or
right.
something.
So the important takeaway is that this isn't just a blanket tool that you can just do whatever you want and make something. You can't just recreate exactly something that already.
If you want to do
exists.
that, just get Game Maker.
yeah, just make a
And then
just make a
get it
game.
on the Humble Bundle and download the source code, because right
Oh, yeah.
now,
Oh, yeah.
Hey, yeah.
I'm talking
because
about
right
that.
now you can get the Game Maker Humble Bundle, which includes Game Maker.
4 of our games.
Yeah, it includes the source code for 4 games that we've made.
Including
One of which
Flop Rocket.
is Flop Rocket,
Mhm.
which is I think in just like the $15 tier or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can take all those, however many thousands, tens of thousands of lines of code, boom, $15. It's like pennies on the line.
Mhm.
Plus,
So,
you also get Game Maker
which normally, and it's Game Maker plus,
plus
I
all
think
the export modules.
plus a bunch
all
of
of
export modules. I mean,
It's
we're
$600,
Yeah,
isn't
really
it?
talking like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars of
Nuts.
for
stuff
$15.
For $15.
So if you've ever thought about doing game dev, go to yoyogames.com, find the link, or go to humblebundle.com.
yeah,
Either one, and buy that thing.
and then you can learn how to make games. Then you can make your own tank tower defense.
right. But
Yeah.
then, yeah. So, but it does mean that what this is really going to give people the opportunity to do is think very carefully and do clever stuff, exercising the constraints that we've given them. And we're going to be giving you an enormous number of really cool, very modular tools. And so if you're clever enough, you'll come up with proxies of just about anything you can think of, but it won't be exactly a tower defense game in the way that somebody thinks about it.
yeah.
Cool.
And do we have any plans about the creator that we want to share?
You mean like timelines?
Even guesstimations.
Yeah,
of
the current
timelines.
guesstimate is assuming we're now post PAX, so kind of things have settled down a bit. And so this is assuming we can just kind of run ahead and work on stuff,
which is a bad assumption.
which is not a great assumption, but
Let's roll with it.
it's better
But we're
now.
gonna do it anyway.
It's better now than it ever has been for quite a while. So probably something like 4 to 6 weeks of finishing the overhaul of the creator to make it look good. So that's already moved along really well. Security features are all done and added. The Carol's already finished all of the work figuring out what it should look like. So just how to remodel the thing. And I'm in the weeds actually reshaping it so that it can work with that new UX design. So we're looking at something like 4 to 6 weeks to get all that done and ready for beta testing.
That's not to say the beta will start then, because we also have to prepare a bunch of other stuff for beta.
For
testing.
beta, yeah. So because that includes you got to update stuff and add it to the game potentially and that kind of thing.
So in other words,
So
it'll be a while.
In other words,
well, it's really not that far
just
away.
years.
It's really not that far away. It's something like, well, and we'll probably have a very early beta, probably, which will include our beta testers from Crashlands because they're really familiar with the game. They know how to give feedback. We brought them in for that reason. So we'll probably invite them
And
in.
they're all
really
just
early.
amazing, beautiful, wonderful people.
Yeah.
All the
And,
good qualities.
and so they'll if they want to go into the wild west of early beta, then that will be probably something that we'll have people do, and it's going to be a rolling beta as well. So we'll invite people in groups. It is the case that you can go request an invite, so you can get in line to get one, which you need to do by going to some URL which I can never remember.
Well, we'll talk about it when we get closer to the beta. So,
but yeah, if you just do a search for Crashlands creator invite,
creator
probably you'll probably find it.
We'll figure it out.
Who knows?
All right.
Anyways,
I
thanks
think
for listening.
I think that's all we got for today, for this week, I guess. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we will see everybody
Next week.
next week.
We'll see you in your ears.
Bye.
Bye.